everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're joining me here for the first time, my name is Melissa Reed and I'm a mixed media abstract artist from southwestern Pennsylvania. So today I am starting with one of my 6 by 12 inch cradled boards that I got off of Amazon. There will be a link to that and all of my other frequently used supplies in the description section of my video. So I started out with this board, which I gessoed with some white gesso, and I pulled out some paints to get started with. These are all Liquitex. I've got fluorescent red, fluorescent pink, alizarin crimson, and light pink that I am just kind of varying over the surface of the canvas there with a 1-inch brush. I just want to get a nice variety of reds on there, and then I'm using a blending brush to go around while they are still slightly wet to blend everything together. I didn't want any hard edges. I just kind of wanted a cloudy looking background made with all of the pinks and reds. After letting that dry, I decided to go in with some collage. Now, what I'm going to be doing with this is doing a negative painting like I did on a few other of my videos. I did one with a bird and one with some cats. And my goal here is to get as much going on the surface of this board as possible, because when I go ahead to do the negative painting and when I draw the image on there that I'm going to paint around, I don't want to have to be worried about placements and patterns. I want them to already be there so that I can just go ahead and place the composition of the subjects wherever I want them in that moment. This collage paper that I'm using right there is some acrylic ink that I applied to sheets of tissue paper with a bamboo skewer. I love the way this looks, and I love using the tissue paper because as you can see there, when I glue it down with my matte gel medium, which I'm using as my adhesive, once I smooth that down with my card, that tissue paper almost disappears. You can kind of see it, but really what it just looks like is that design is placed directly on the board, and I really like that. It does give a little bit of an indication of the paper, which I also like because it doesn't stay all one tone. It almost lightens it a little bit because of the very light color of the paper. But I really love the way this looks. And what I'm doing here, I got some new stencils last week. You may have seen my short video that I did last week and the week before using some of those. And I really love this one with the diamond shape on it. So I've gone ahead and made some different gel prints using just that stencil. And this is the results of those. That one I believe was done in nickel azo gold. I've also got some done in a pale blue that I'm going to be using here as well. I just, like I said, wanted a variety of colors and a variety of shapes to create as much visual interest in this layer as I can possibly get. Using papers with a variety of opacity of the paints and inks that you use is a great idea, because if you look and see there, the acrylic ink, the black acrylic ink that I did on the tissue paper is not transparent at all. It's very opaque, so you can't see the background through it. But if you look at the nickel azo gold on the diamond sheet that I put up there, that is a more transparent color, and you can kind of see a little bit of the reds and pinks underneath it. It's not so much that you can see those colors, but it alters the color of the azo gold itself, which creates an even more interesting look. So I went ahead and put down some of the blue paper that I made, and this is just another one here that I'm doing that I used with the stencil that I got in. This is a great stencil pack. I will link that in the description as well. I just got it off of Amazon. It was relatively inexpensive. I think I paid $8 for it and got 6 or 8 different stencil sheets, and they are 6-inch by 6-inch stencils. I'm loving the brightness of this one, the bright colors, the happy feel to it. I really like the line work in the black ink collage papers that I have there. I just think it all works really nicely together, and it's creating exactly the kind of background that I am looking for this piece. At this point, I just am reaching for different papers and gluing, and again, just trying to get as many different shapes and textures and colors, as much variety as possible, so that when I go ahead to put the images on the top there, what's going to be revealed is some of those patterns and colors and textures from underneath, and it's going to be very bright and lively. Doing a piece like this is a really great opportunity to go through your stacks of gel prints, and if you're anything like me, you've got stacks and stacks of them. My studio is overrun right now with just different collage papers that I've made, because I'll get an idea or just feel like doing some printing without really having an idea in mind for what I want to use the paper. And then I just end up with all of these papers, as I'm sure if you're into gel printing, you've got the same problem. But if you do some kind of project like this, where you are really just reaching and grabbing and whatever speaks to you in the moment, it's a good way to use up some of that stash, which then just gives you an excuse to go ahead and make more, because I know that that's exactly what I'm going to do now that I have kind of cleaned up my stash a little bit, which is a joke even as I say it, because there is still, I couldn't even begin to guess how many papers I have lying around in my studio. It's almost embarrassing. But hey, they're so much fun to make, and I'm not going to stop making them, so I guess I'll just have to make more art to use them up. I just wanted to take a second here to thank everyone who has subscribed in the last week. I really appreciate all of you guys. And last week I had set my video as a premiere, and I was able to chat with some of you live, which was so cool. I'd never done one of those before, and I will definitely be doing that again. I'm actually toying with the idea of doing a live stream here at some point in the future. And I was thinking about possibly doing it next Monday, because next Monday, the 9th, is actually my 1-year anniversary on YouTube. I cannot believe it has been a year already. That is absolutely crazy to me. When I first started doing this, I really had no idea what my channel was going to become, or if I would even like it or stick with it or be successful in any way. But as it turns out, I absolutely love doing these videos. And I have had moderate success. I mean, it's been pretty good. I've got nearly 11,000 subscribers right now. Thank you to each and every one of you. And if you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button. It costs absolutely nothing, and it's a great way to support my channel. Also, if you do like the videos that you're seeing, give me a thumbs up. And not a bad idea to click the bell notification, because YouTube doesn't always do a great job of pushing out videos, and that'll make sure that you are alerted every time I put out a new video. But again, thank you all so much. It's been a great ride, and I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to do the live stream, but look for one at some point, because I probably will. Okay, so here is that stencil that I made some of those papers with, and I'm just going in to put a little bit more of that pattern on top of some of the others. That is actually creating both a visual and an actual texture, because I've got some of the acrylic paint physically sitting on top, which is creating its own texture. I put it on purposely a little bit thick just to achieve that, but I liked the idea of carrying that through from those papers to the top of the board there. This is another stencil that came with that set, and I really, really like this one a lot, and I have a feeling I'm going to be using it for lots and lots of things. But I'm using some of those colors that I used underneath, some of those reds, and I'm also going to go in with a little bit of black in this very same pattern, just to get some of those swirlies kind of everywhere. I just really, really love swirls. You'll see them in lots of my work, and when I saw that stencil, that was actually the reason why I bought this pack of stencils, was just to get that one. And fortunately, there were several other ones in there that I really liked as well, so I think it's going to be definitely a useful purchase, and it will be coming out in a lot more of my work. This is actually the first time I used that one is as a stencil there with my little dauber, but I want to definitely use it on the gel plate and see what kind of interesting effects I can get with that. I also want to use some of these in with some watercolor painting that I'm planning on doing here. Do you ever just feel like there's not enough time to make all of the art that you want to make? I just keep coming up with these ideas, and then where does the time come from? Because I want to do the mixed media collages, I want to do watercolor. I would really love to start getting back into some realistic drawing. I'm going to definitely make time for that somewhere. I used to love that. Actually, when I went to college, my original my original concentration when I went for my BFA was in drawing. And I've gotten away from that entirely. I did pick up my sketchbook a few weeks ago and have a go at it, and I was pleased to see I hadn't lost all of my abilities there, but they do need brushing up, so I'm probably going to be doing a little bit more of that here coming up in the future. Maybe I'll do a video either on that or using some of that. I haven't decided yet. I feel like it's going to be pretty boring just to sit and watch somebody sketch, but we'll have to see. Okay, so now that I have all of the design on there that I want and everything has dried, I went ahead and trimmed up the edges and put my black around the edges. I always edge my pieces in matte black paint. I am going in with a pencil, and I realize now that you can't actually see this at all, but I'm drawing in a couple of very loose, very stylized bird shapes. My idea here was to do a large bird and a small bird. Obviously nothing realistic here, not at all what I'm going for with this piece, but I'm just getting the shapes down there, and you'll see in a moment when I start the negative painting around those shapes that they're going to emerge. And I really love birds. I think I say that in almost all of my videos, but I really do. I don't know when that started happening. I actually used to fear birds. I was terribly afraid of them, but something switched on in my brain, and now I'm kind of obsessed with them. So they appear in my art very frequently, and this is just another piece that I used them. So on the back of my plate here, I am setting out some paints. I've got titanium white, I've got some nickel azo gold, I've got the Liquitex pale pink, and Winsor & Newton pale olive. That nickel azo gold is the Golden brand paint, if anybody was wondering there. I'm mixing all of these colors just with a little bit of the titanium white, and I'm keeping some of the titanium white pure so that I can go back and forth between all of these colors for my negative painting. The nickel azo gold right there that I'm blending with the titanium, if you are looking for a nice cream color, that's the way to go. A tiny little bit of that mixed in with some of the titanium white gives you the most beautiful, bright cream color that I have ever seen. Okay, so now you're going to be able to see the bird shapes, because when I went in with my pencil drawing, I decided to go ahead and actually outline them in a little bit of vine charcoal. I did this for a couple of reasons. So first, I wanted to be able to see the bird shapes a little better. And also, when I get that paint on there, I like everything, when I do this technique, I like everything outlined in the charcoal. And I will go back and outline it again with a darker charcoal, but this is basically just for painting purposes so that I can really see what I'm doing there and not accidentally get paint in an area that I didn't want to. So you can see my little goofy bird shapes there. And now I'm going to just go in with this little flat brush, alternating in between all of those colors that I just mixed and the titanium white, and go around each of the shapes. So I use this color combination for a couple of reasons. First of all, I've used all of those colors in the painting itself, in some of the collage papers, in that first layer of paint. Those are all present, so it's going to make a little more visual sense that they are there. I mean, there are no rules right now to this. It's my art, and I could use whatever colors I wanted to. But I like the idea of having that continuity there with the colors that I used in the background then reappearing on the surface. I've also found that this particular combination with that pale green, the pink, and the cream that I made out of the azo gold, when you put them all together alternating, they almost create like a fantastical, it appears, what's the word I want to say here? Like a shimmery, rainbowish look, which I'm doing a terrible job of explaining, but it almost gives the impression of a holographic look, if that makes any sense. I'm sure it doesn't, but you'll see it all at the end, or you can go back and look at my other two pieces that I did in this method. There's just something about that mix of colors that really speaks to me and seems to work very well with this technique. Now, I am not covering every single inch of this canvas with the opaque paints. I'm leaving a little bit of the areas come through so that you can see that that is the background underneath there. And I'm sorry, I am doing all of this off frame, as I can see here. Sometimes when I'm painting, I forget to actually pay attention to the fact that I'm filming this also, and people need to see what I'm doing, so I do apologize. But what I'm doing there is just covering all of these areas that are not the bird, painting around it, hence the negative painting. And you'll see in a minute there what I did up top. It's just the same thing that I'm doing on the bottom. And I'm alternating between these colors, like I said, to create that kind of almost shimmery effect, even though there's nothing, I'm not using any sort of metallics or shimmery paints at all. Something just says to me shimmery when I use those colors together. I don't know. But I'm covering up everything around the perimeters of the birds. And as I was saying, I'm leaving a little bit of the background come through. Not a lot, and mostly just around the edges. I want it to be known that that background is there and that those birds were drawn onto the patterns. And that's a way that I can achieve that. I did end up going in with a smaller brush around the little bird feet because there was no way I was going to be able to get the definition that I wanted with that large brush. As I'm working on this step, I'm kind of trying to decide what I want to do, if anything else, with this. And I toyed around for a little while with the idea of putting something over there in that top left-hand quadrant above the small bird. And I could have done that, and that would have worked, but ultimately I decided just to not do that and leave it the way it is. And so once I have got all this paint on there, I am going to go in with some of that dark charcoal that I mentioned in my previous video and outline the birds again so that they really stand out. Still can't figure out what that was. Everybody gave me a lot of great suggestions as to what it might have been, but I don't think it was any of those. I'm thinking it may have just been a package of the coal charcoals. I don't know. I'm going to buy a package and see if they react in the same way. And if not, worst case scenario, I just have some new charcoals there. But that little tiny 1/2-inch nub that I have in my hand is very, very difficult to use. But it is the last little bit of that I have. And I think I bought it like, oh my goodness, 25 years ago when I first went to art school. But it is serving me well up until its last days. I do have a charcoal pencil there that, again, I went around the little bird feet just to get the definition there. And once all of that is done, I'm taking that charcoal right around the edge of the piece and blending it in with my fingers. I like to use my fingers for this because I can really get in there and tell exactly where it's going to go and make it do exactly what I want it to do, which is just to create that darkness around the sides, and then I always go and do just a little tiny bit of extra right around the corners to make those stand out more. Okay, and here's the finished piece, which I have very creatively named Two Birds Looking Down, and this guy will be for sale in my Etsy shop. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this as much as I enjoyed making it. If you haven't tried this method, I highly recommend it. You can do this not only with collage papers if you don't have any, but you can just cut out images from a magazine and glue them down on any substrate that you have, paper, cardboard, whatever, and just have so much fun with it. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great one.